Hello, I am Trish, and this is Senor Rojo.
Senor Rojo.
Oh, otherwise known as Mark, and we're from Keep Your Daydream. And today, we're here to talk to you about California.
That is right. We had many concerns before RVing in California, such as the costs, not having any reservations. What about like pulling Ginger, our rig, through those coastal roads? And then we thought you might have some questions too. So this is our official RVing California Q&A.
We're here in beautiful British Columbia on the campus of Rondelin RV Resort, just outside of Ladysmith. And we are blown away by Vancouver Island.
You guys have a lot to look forward to. We've already been to Victoria, Sydney, we went over to Tofino, and now we're near Nanaimo. And it's just beginning because now we're headed over to Vancouver, Whistler, and of course Banff.
And we've heard those places are outrageous.
Yes.
So if you can top this, Canada, you are out of control.
But
so
let's
awesome.
rewind back to California.
Yes.
Because we spent 6 weeks in California, which is actually more time than we had initially dedicated to the state of California.
But we would drive just one little bit every single day. We'd be like, we have to stop.
Every 10 feet, I want to be like, should I fly the drone? Should I fly the drone?
Yeah, and we stop
Should I fly
every
the
like
drone?
2 seconds, which can be annoying.
It's taking a long time to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was just so much to see. And so we've got a lot of questions. And so we put it out on our Facebook page, and you guys also had a lot of questions. So we thought we would just go ahead and hit all of these questions.
We're tackling the top 7 questions that you guys had for us.
All right, let's just dive right in. Terry asked, how did you decide the places to visit?
Woo, good one, Terry.
Okay, so when it comes to planning our route in California, we actually skipped San Diego, and for 2 reasons. One is, we've been there a bunch, but we also figured we're gonna go back to San Diego between seasons, and we really wanted to go to Joshua Tree because we've heard so many things about Joshua Tree, and that was just a perfect place to start our California trip.
Well, and as it comes to San Diego, there's that whole saying of June gloom.
Oh yeah.
May is gray. So we were starting in April, so at the very end of April and into May, and we were like, well, do we want to go to San Diego when it's overcast?
Yeah.
We might as well start through the desert and a little bit higher. So we were like, okay, what are the big rocks? We want to do Joshua Tree, LA, San Francisco, and the Redwoods. We were like not leaving California until we hit 4 of those marks.
That's right.
And then we pretty much just filled in the blanks. But our biggest surprise locations for me were SLO,
San Luis Obispo,
and the
Paso Robles.
Paso Robles.
For sure.
Those, I mean, like, we didn't understand how cool those 2 places were.
No, and we stayed at Pismo Village Beach RV in San Luis Obispo, and it was just an absolutely gorgeous RV park, overlooking the ocean, right where I used to travel for business.
Yeah.
And then Paso Robles was like it was like a private Napa Valley.
So it was like super cool. That was just a really
And I also
great
think
place.
what Trish is talking about when she said she's surprised is, like, we knew Big Sur was gonna be amazing.
Yes.
We knew Monterey was gonna be amazing, and it was.
Jaw-dropping.
Yeah, but I think for us, and particularly being full-time, when you kind of stumble across little towns and you're like, this is really charming, and it gives you the views and it gives you everything you're looking for, and you don't have to pay the premium price too, which we're gonna talk about the cost of some of these places.
Yes.
SLO and Paso Robles were actually reasonably priced.
Very affordable, and you could do a lot of things from that location.
That's right.
Like SLO.
Yeah.
So, and SLO, hands down, best farmer's market we've ever been to.
Oh, no, without question. All right, so Gina asked question number 2, are there any places in California that you missed? And there were. There were 2 places that, well, first of all, let me say that we're still not done. As we come back down on season 3, we're gonna be spending time in Lake Tahoe, where my dad lives, and Yosemite. So there's still more California to look forward to, but there were 2 places that we missed, Napa Valley and Disneyland.
Yes. I don't think Mark was too disappointed that we missed Disneyland.
Don't tell them that. There's Disney people that would be like, what? What?
Only because of the crowds. But we also missed Napa because once we arrived to Napa, we were so busy with work. It was kind of like one of those times where everything kind of hit us all at once. We never left the RV park. Like the Napa train, I totally wanted to go on that.
Yeah.
Probably not super good for kids to be on that. Boring.
I think we realized that we had a lot of work to do, and we just needed to buckle down and get that work done so that we weren't letting it linger when we went to the Redwoods. And I figured Trish and I are just gonna go back, and we're gonna do like a couple's trip in Napa and do it right.
Yes.
Okay, so we have that to look forward to. Okay, question 3 brought to you by Debbie and our tour said, how about the no reservations thing? A lot of you know that season 3 is about no reservations, but how did it work in California?
Yes.
So let me start with that. We have found that there's a hassle factor with making reservations and without making reservations. So you just have to pick which kind of hassle are you willing to tolerate.
Yes.
For us, we'd rather have the hassle factor with spending a little extra time finding RV parks within a day or two than feeling rushed and being like, wow, we really don't want to leave this location, but we're going to lose our deposit at the next spot. We've chose to take the hassle on finding the location.
Yes. And then that gives you freedom. That hassle gives you some more freedom. Like Mark is saying, you know, we don't know what these places are going to be like until we get there.
Yeah.
And you don't know what kind of vibe the RV park is going to have. And we have a lot of different factors. We have Mark and I, but then we also have Carson and Caleb, and then we have Tori.
And we could find an RV park where the kids are like hanging out, they made friends.
Yes.
And that means when they have friends, which by the way they're playing with right now because we're at Rondalin and there's tons of kids here, we get to do stuff like this.
Like this.
And we don't know that we're making plans. So when we're planning, we're like, oh yeah, 3 days sounds like it's good enough in San Luis Obispo, and then we'll go to Monterey. Then we get to San Luis Obispo, we're like, this is awesome, but then we have to move. So you get the point.
You get the point. So, but you do need to compensate for that because you might come against a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then there's nowhere to stay. So there's a couple things that we've done to make sure that we're not in a tricky situation.
Yeah.
One of them is to travel in the peak destination areas, like right along the coast, Tuesday through Thursday. Most times people are vacationing on the weekends.
Yep.
And so you have a little more flexibility in there. The other thing that we used are harvest hosts on the weekend. We love harvest hosts, especially when it comes to weekends, because they have availability. It's a call, drive-in situation, and we've had a lot of success with that.
So just to give you an example, like Joshua Tree, we knew was going to be busy on the weekend, so we went there from Tuesday to Thursday.
Yes.
Then we went to Palm Springs. In the back of our mind, we said, okay, we could harvest host there on a Saturday, and then be somewhere else and then like Walmart on Sunday.
Yes.
Back to an RV park on Monday. And so that's kind of how we've been planning our routes.
Yes, and then, you know, worst comes to worst, like Mark said, you can always, you know, boondock at a Walmart. But the other thing that we learned, and this might be more of an Oregon thing than a California thing, but you can call some RV resorts, and if they have a big parking lot, they'll let you stay in the parking lot for a reduced fee, but you get to use their shower, laundry, pool, activities, everything.
Yeah, you can dry camp out front, like where you would normally check in, they allow dry camping. So that's kind of a new thing that we've seen, not so much in California, a little bit, definitely in Oregon, definitely in British Columbia.
Yes.
And then also, let me find the question, Mark Norris asked, what about BLM? I'm sure there's lots of BLM in California, we just happen not to use it because of the locations we were, but that's where All Stays comes in. So we have many times recommended the app All Stays, and there's a link below to that down there. That's where we find our Walmarts, our Walmart reviews. That's where we find RV parks, and we get pictures of those RV parks, which is kind of handy. And it's where we find BLM land. Here we are with our new improved lighting location.
So one last thing to add to the no reservations. If you want to stay at some amazing places on the water, on state parks, the only thing is you're not going to be able to fly by the seat of your pants. You will have to reserve in advance. And let me give you one example. We stayed in Santa Barbara. Beautiful, beautiful town. Now, we could have stayed in Carpinteria, which is a little town right next door, right on the beach if we had a little advance notice. So
and by little, she means 6 months.
Yeah, so they only have like 4 or 6, whatever, slots big enough for our RV, and they didn't have any room for us, but it would have been less expensive and we would have been closer to the water and a short drive into the town of Santa Barbara. So reservations do pay off, especially when you're talking about state parks in California.
Yeah, and these state parks really don't accommodate 28-foot rigs and bigger. So a lot of the stuff in Carpinteria was like 21 foot or smaller.
They were like for sprinters.
Yeah, there were like 4 sites that were big enough for us, and those just get booked up way in advance.
Way in advance. But there's some fantastic state parks. So if your trip to California isn't happening for a year from now, look into that because it is a cost-effective, great way to see California.
Tyler asked question number 4, which was our favorite Harvest Host location? And it's hard to beat bottling wine at Rio Seco. Okay, that was and it was our first Harvest Host experience.
Yes.
But Harvest Host weighed in on the Facebook post and they said there are 32 Harvest Host locations in California, 18 just in the area of Merced and kind of north of that area. So there are so many to choose from, but I would suggest, once you become a member, go on the website, find the Harvest host that you like, and go to the host website, and then look at what activities and events they have.
So cool, you guys.
Try to plan your visits around maybe some of their events, and then make a reservation with them in advance just by calling them.
And then certain seasons, like there's harvest season, there's bottling season.
Yeah. Right now in British Columbia, there is a Harvest host right up the way that they're picking blueberries. So if you can pick blueberries, harvest, bottle wine, go to the museums on a day, like the Air Museum on a day they're doing an air show, that's just going to amplify your experience with Harvest host. So
yes.
Okay, I think let's get to the question that I know everyone's waiting for, dollars and cents. Question number 5.
Let's talk about money, baby.
Question number 5
How expensive is it really?
Audrey says, how expensive is it? In fact, Audrey is planning a trip to San Diego, and she says, look, I know that it's outrageously expensive in San Diego, but that's just San Diego. The whole state's not expensive, is it? Yes. The entire state is expensive. And just to give you an example, a state park is $60 a night.
Yes. And
that's not even full hookups. That's water and electric for $60 a night.
But here's good news.
Oh, there's good news?
Yes, you can go on a shoulder season. Remember
Like
how
we
were kind of beating the schools out season? So we were kind of skirting it. So when we were in Malibu, the site that we stayed in was $60. But right now, in the middle of summer, it's almost $200. $200. Yes, we said that correctly. So, but there was a state park right up the way too that we could have stayed at for a little bit less. Really, you just need to be aware of it. I mean, there's certain trips that are just more expensive than others. But the good news was, as soon as we got up north to Oregon, things changed.
Yeah, Oregon's the other way. Oregon, we got our money back out of Oregon.
Yes.
So I mean, on average, we were spending about $70 a night at RV parks in California, but that's not actually where it ends. There's fees for our kids, $3 per kid per night. $3 or $5 per kid per night. There were $25 fees if you didn't check out promptly at 11 o'clock, which is my favorite checkout time ever, is 11 o'clock. And so it is a little fatiguing, I'll be honest. And the reason we're bringing it up is so that before you go to California, that's just what you're gonna get. You're gonna get beautiful views, and I'd love to complain about it, but it's just a supply and demand issue. There's a lot of demand, and so the way that they compensate for that is by money, and that's just how it is. But after you're done with California, you can come up to Oregon, and you can have all the camping you want at $35, $40 a night.
Yes, but what it lacks in, affordability, it does have in beauty. And I have to say that Southern California especially, well, Southern and Northern, there are so many things to do for free that will take your breath away. Yeah. In LA alone, I could have spent a week there with the kids, entertaining them completely for free. Open museums, the observatory, the beach. You go up mid-coast, you have the ocean. The aquariums are expensive, but then you go up north and the hiking is phenomenal. Hands down the best hiking
so
ever.
let's talk about money and RVing, and this maybe should be a separate video, but don't look at just the RV park. Look at how often are you going to move. So basically, how often are you going to relocate, because that's going to determine your fuel costs. Where are you going to stay? Can you stay at a place for $70 a night here, but then Walmart, Harvest host, BLM, go back to an $80 a night resort, and then look at the food and look at the free events and how much hiking. Big picture, that's going to determine your overall budget. So maybe there's some states where you got high lodging, free activities. Maybe there's some places where you have low lodging, expensive activities, because you're going to do zip lining and things that cost more money. So just look at the entire dollar and cents picture, and I think that'll maybe mentally offset. That's how I do it.
Yeah.
When we stay at Walmart and the night before was a $70 RV park, in my opinion, that's 2 nights at $35. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, it stretches the budget.
That's right.
So, and also you'll get breaks on staying places for the week instead of just staying places for 5 days.
Yeah.
So
we get questions all the time. How much does RV living cost? It costs whatever you want to make it.
Yes.
It really does. If you want to keep it on the cheap and stay in a particular location for a long period of time, and whatnot.
But also ask for your discounts. So you have Good Sam, you have, what is the America?
Passport America.
Passport America. And also all of our veterans and active service members, thank you so much. And make sure you're asking for your discount, because so many people will recognize your service and give you a discount.
In fact, there is a resort in Fort Bragg that the 3rd day is free for anyone who has served any vet.
Yes.
And now you're gonna ask for the name. So it's It's down there. The link
We'll
is down
find it.
there.
We'll find it.
Yeah.
So anyway, there are just so many things that will offset the lodging costs that you're going to find in California.
Okay, question 6 from David and Amy asked, what about driving the rig on the PCH and the 101? So I think it was David that says we've got a 43-foot rig plus a tow vehicle, and I think Amy said her husband was not comfortable driving on curvy roads. So we, as you probably know, we are 53 feet long. We had absolutely 0 issues on the entire PCH road.
Well, some of it is a little bit nail biting, and Mark, you won't agree to this because you were behind the wheel and you did a great job. But some of it, if you're new to RVing, if you have a new trailer and it's super long or
longer than you're used to.
Longer than you're used to, you know what? It can be nerve-wracking at times, but know that there's logging trucks doing this. There's semis, there's all kinds of stuff going on. So if
Trish is right. Whenever I see a logging truck, I know I'm fine. But there's also logging trucks on a 2-lane road, on a curvy road that you have to deal with. So, but the point is, it is possible to do. Trish's dad, Jeff, they heard about the whole windy road up the coast north of Fort Bragg, and they're like, I'm out. And they just went to the 101, and they went straight up.
And they had a great time.
And they went straight up north from there. It was no problem.
Yeah.
The drive north of Fort Bragg is probably the prettiest drive of the entire stretch of the one. And it was like Navajo area. It was absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah.
So if you are comfortable driving on curvy roads and 2-lane roads, you got to do it.
Go for it.
Yeah, go for it.
So, but this is all to be said, that you go at your own pace, do what makes you feel comfortable, because then you're going to have a fun time. If you're going to be white knuckling it the whole way just for the sake of doing it, it's not worth it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. If you're nervous about it, it's not going to be an enjoyable experience no matter how good that view is.
Right. Number 7, Leah or Lee?
Lee.
Lee asked, when is the best time to go?
Is there a bad time to go to California?
I don't think so.
I mean, maybe, we mentioned it earlier, maybe May, gray, June, gloom, and that's a little bit of a factor.
And I'm sure it's pretty darn chilly in January and February.
It is.
But
it doesn't snow.
It doesn't snow.
But,
well,
I mean,
Northern does.
I mean, they're probably the best time to go is like July, August, September, that time period.
And with that, it feels like the entire world is descending on the Southern California area. It is very busy. There'll be a lot of traffic, but it is so gorgeous.
It is really pretty. So if you're looking for that beach experience where you can kind of go hang out on the beach, definitely the summer's the time to be there. But there's always a trade-off. No matter where you go or what time you go, there's always a trade-off. Do you want beautiful sunny weather on the beach with crowds? You want no crowds, but then you can kind of wear a sweater? I don't know, it's just up to you. My personal opinion is, go whenever you gotta go.
Whenever you get a chance.
And deal with whatever you gotta deal with, because there's always a drawback. So just go. Just go. and then be like, oh, we're going in September, so that means this, and be prepared for that.
Yes, that's a good point. There's seasons for everything. So even in Southern California, in September and October, you could be picking apples or going to orchards or doing different activities. So just figure out what activities you want to do.
Okay, so that concludes our top questions. And if you have any other questions, just pop over to Facebook and find this post. I think it's the picture of the Bigsby Bridge, and it says RV California underneath. And feel free to ask any other questions, and we'll respond in that Facebook post with stuff we learned from California. But
so overall, was it worth it?
Yes, it was worth it. It was. I mean, California is a must-do state, but you know.
Amazing. Okay, that wraps up the California Q&A, a cap on California.
A recap. And by the way, if you like these recaps per state, let us know in the comments below.
Yes.
And then wherever we go, we can kind of do a wrap-up video and share kind of our thoughts on that. And as always, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Comments and sharing and all that stuff really helps the channel.
All right, until this weekend, we hope you have an awesome day, and we can't wait to see you again.
Thank you.